Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Hilaal Live. Thanks for watching us on channel 347 on DSTV. Remember, you can also live stream on www.hilal.tv. Now, the Muslim Marriages Bill has been a point of contention for a while now. It's been going in and out of courts. And I thought, let's invite someone in studio who's going to give us the updated version of the Muslim Marriages Bill that was open for public participation and comments on or objections as well, had to be lodged by the 31st of August 2023. So I thought let's invite Advocate Yusuf Khan Dalwai to unpack how the Muslim Marriages Bill affects our community. Advocate, thanks so much and welcome to Hilaal Live.
Assalamu alaikum to you, Luqman, and your viewers, and thank you for having me once again.
My absolute pleasure. So we've heard about the Muslim Marriages Bill. We know it affects customary marriages. But for those of us that don't know too much about how this all has impacted or unfolded over the last couple of years and also impacts our community, what exactly and how exactly is the Muslim Marriages Bill implemented in South Africa?
Okay, let me first rectify you. It's the marriage bill.
Okay, sorry, it's the marriage bill.
No, not the Muslim Marriages Bill, but the marriage bill. So the marriage bill was open for public participation during a month ago approximately. And the cutoff date was the 31st of August for anybody who wanted to comment or lodge any form of objections in respect of the bill.
Okay.
Now, this obviously came from a Constitutional Court judgment in 2021, insofar as where the court found that certain provisions in the Marriage Act and the Divorce Act is inconsistent with the Constitution insofar as as Muslim marriages are not being recognized.
Right.
The court then ordered that the legislature has 24 months in which to develop legislation to ensure this consistency with legislation in acknowledging and obviously incorporating Muslim marriages into that system and legislation. So two departments are involved here: the Department of Home Affairs and also the Department of Justice. The Department of Home Affairs deals with the marriages, and Department of Justice deals with the divorce, because the Divorce Act has also been amended and comments closed on the 8th of September last week, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
So what is important for us to understand is that the demand for Muslim marriages to be recognized is coming on a long time, long ago, decades. All right. It's not now of recent. However, the Constitutional Court judgment has given effect to that, at least, and put some pressure on the right people to ensure that the legislation is adopted accordingly.
Right.
Now, what has happened was during the public participation period, there were a number of objections that came from the Muslim community, and particularly the Muslim bodies that lodged certain objections during the public participation period.
I just want to stop you before you go ahead with some of the objections that were lodged by our community. Let's take a step back in terms of how the bill was actually brought into light in terms of constitutionally. You mentioned that two departments are involved in that, but in that process, was there consultation with the relevant stakeholders, with the relevant people? I mean, that would have prohibited some of the objections, I would imagine.
Yes. So prior to 2021, the Constitutional Court judgment, 2022, I think, there were consultations, because this has been coming on for some time now, So there were public engagement. The Department of Home Affairs did consult with the Muslim community. I was part of some of those engagements as well. So I'm aware that a lot of concern was raised insofar as certain tenets of Islam is concerned, and how it's going to be compatible in this whole legislation. So that definitely was raised. So they are definitely aware of what our concerns are as a Muslim community.
Right.
And they've done the single marriage statute. They've had engagement as well. That was a constitutional divorce for the divorce amendments,
Okay.
there were engagement.
Okay. All right.
However, it came to our surprise and shockingly that after raising all these concerns
Yes.
and presenting all these facts, it still was not adopted.
Wow.
And implemented and incorporated into this bill.
That's really shocking. Yeah. The marriage bill as well doesn't just affect Muslim marriages, right? It's customary marriages over other religions as well.
That's
I would imagine Hindu and even some of our indigenous cultures as well.
So this is the omnibus marriage. Okay. So it's all under one umbrella.
I see.
So the marriages, the marriages in community of property, out of community of property, the civil unions, that's the same-sex marriages.
Right.
African customary marriages, and also the Muslim marriage or other religious marriages. That would be the Muslims, Jewish community, and the Hindu community.
I see.
So everybody would fall under this one umbrella. Okay, and the other acts will be repealed, like for example the Marriage Act,
right,
and the Customary Marriage Act,
okay,
and the Civil Union Act.
Right.
So that will go away,
okay,
and this piece of act now, or piece of legislation that's going to come into play is going to govern all marriages.
Okay, gotcha. So it's been back and forth. The last time that they went to court and then the bill was then presented, it was then still open for public scrutiny or comments and objections as well. What were some of the objections that our community raised that were not taken into consideration?
Yeah, so the bill was obviously crafted and drafted in such a way that it holds constitutional muster.
Okay.
However, it doesn't end there, because we also have freedom of religion, although it's with its limitations in terms of the constitution. But certain provisions would not invalidate the bill, and neither would it be inconsistent with the constitution. So some of the objections were coming from the Muslim community and the Muslim bodies that raised and lodged these objections, is that our Muslim marriages will be under the same umbrella as the same-sex marriages.
Okay.
And that would be offensive, in terms of having a nikah and the same-sex marriage, under
the same umbrella, yeah.
So that has been raised. The other important issue that's been raised is a child under the age of 18 is not allowed to get married.
Okay.
So you have to have reached the age of 18, majority, and before you can enter into a nikah or a marriage.
Right.
Now, previously or currently, that is provided for in the Children's Act.
Okay.
Where if a child under the age of 18 wishes to get married, there is provisions for that.
They need parental...
They need consent from the parental right up to the Minister of Home Affairs.
Sure.
Right? So they can apply for that consent.
Right.
So that is there. So I'm not sure what the reasons were why they wanted to change that, because with this act coming into play, which means they're going to have to amend the Children's Act also. So nikah can't happen under the age of 18, according to this bill. So that's the second objection.
Okay.
The third objection is further marriages, polygamous marriages.
Right.
So now that model comes from the African Customary Marriage Act, okay, whereby if a husband wishes to enter into a further marriage, he needs to obtain consent from his first wife or wives, right? So he got to apply to the court and obtain consent from them and apply to the court before the court can grant permission for him to enter into a second marriage or further marriage.
Right.
Now, that has been incorporated into the marriage bill here. Now, although the Customary Marriages Act provided for that, and that community may not have an issue with it. Our community, the Muslim community, that is against the tenets of our law.
Correct.
And Islam.
Correct.
And our fiqh, by obtaining consent from the first wife. So I think a lot of men were, those are the main objections.
I would imagine.
So, yeah, so you got to obtain consent, and if you want to take a second or third or fourth wife.
Right. Okay. So that's obviously is what that will be looked at closely as well.
Yeah.
And were that all the objections? Were there
No,
more?
there are one or two more.
Okay.
The third one is that an ordinary imam or sheikh is not able to solemnize a nikah.
Okay.
Or perform a nikah at least,
Right.
unless they are registered marriage officers.
Okay, gotcha.
All right.
Right.
So which means they need to go through a certain protocol, certain
obtain a
process,
license.
application to obtain a registration certificate to become a registered marriage officer.
Okay.
Now, that takes away,
Yes.
what our imams have studied for all these years. We have to give them that. I mean, they went to Makkah or Darul Uloom or Medina or Egypt. They studied all the years, and you take that away from them.
Correct.
So they now need to comply. And if they perform a nikah, that would be an offense.
Wow.
And they can be imprisoned or liable to pay a fine.
My goodness.
So
that's opening up a whole new can of worms.
A whole new can of worms. So which means it's totally protected in terms of who conducts a nikah or marriage. So that would take a lot away from
absolutely
and criminalizing
yes.
Any such nikah of an imam that performs it without being registered.
Wow. I'm going to pause the conversation right there. We're going to go for an ad break. When we come back, we're going to continue chatting to Advocate Yusuf Khan Dalwai around the marriage bill and some of the objections that our Muslim community has raised with regards to that as well. Thanks for watching us on Hilaal Live. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Hilaal Live. Thanks for joining us on Channel 347 and being part of our journey. I'm on till about 6:20, and then Faraz Patel and the team in Johannesburg takes over until about 7:30, inshallah. Today we're chatting to Advocate Yusuf Khan Dalwai around the marriages bill and more importantly how the bill affects our Muslim community and the objections that has been raised about when the bill was last passed and our community have not agreed with some of the items that were left out and omitted or even not taken into consideration as well. Advocate, thanks once again for coming into studio, chatting to about a very pertinent issue that affects, and as you say, the back and forth over many, many years that this has been going to courts and been, part of legislation as well. If we very quickly run through the objections that our community has raised, they had until the 31st of August
That's correct,
to raise some of those objections. What were those very quickly? And I think there were one or two we'll go through.
There were consensus around nationally regarding some of the objections, and that is that the Muslim marriages would be under the same banner or under the same umbrella as the same-sex marriages.
Right.
The issue regarding being 18 years old and older to enter into a marriage, under 18 is not allowed. So that was objected to. Further marriages, like taking a second wife or third or fourth, obtaining consent from the first or the other wives, that was objected to because that goes against the tenets of Islam. And then the fourth one was the marriage officers, and an imam or sheikh cannot conduct a nikah unless they are registered marriage officers, and should they do so, they would be committing an offense in terms of this act and can be liable to pay a fine or be imprisoned.
Wow.
Now, the other most important objection is that this all stemmed from the Constitutional Court judgment. And the judgment was clear to say that Muslim marriages should be given recognition. Right. Now, this bill does not make provisions for the definition of a Muslim marriage.
Right.
It just speaks about a marriage.
Gotcha.
Whether it's in terms of any religion, any custom.
That's in there is unconstitutional because, we are practicing religion allowed in the country.
Yes, for more than 300 years.
Exactly.
And there are marriages that exist for more than 300 years in terms of nikah that was taking place here in South Africa.
Correct.
So I think we deserve the word Muslim marriages to be given recognition as such in a bill, because the Muslim marriage has a unique way of being solemnized, and the dissolution, the talaq, is also a unique way, that we carry out.
Correct.
So the problem arises in the dissolution of the marriage. The Muslim, you enter into a marriage in terms of the Marriage Act, and then the dissolution would be in terms of the Divorce Act.
Divorce Act, correct.
Now, although the Divorce Act has, there are certain provisions that that they've amended. That was also open for public participation and comment, and they've included the name or the word Muslim marriages or Sharia marriages. Right now, the problem is the Muslim talaq or divorce is different to what the Divorce Act would be.
Correct.
So there's a process, the first talaq, the second one, the third one, the iddah period,
yes,
the waiting period. So those are important to us, in terms of our laws.
Correct.
And I feel that it's important that our government recognizes that custom or that tradition or that legal rulings within our system, Islamic system, has to be upheld.
Absolutely. So what does this mean? I mean, we've now raised the objections. Do they now go back to the drawing board? Do they meet with the relevant ulama or, advocate attorneys like yourselves to then consider a way forward?
So they have until 2024, July 2024, to have legislation.
Another wait.
Next year, we will have our national elections.
Yeah.
That's a short year.
Correct.
Right? So I'm not sure how possible that's going to be, especially after these objections. So these objections will have to be taken into consideration by the Department of Home Affairs and Department of Justice. And they have to, like you say, go back to the drawing board and amend the bill.
Correct.
And send out an amended bill, for public participation again. But this process will take time. We're already at the end of the year.
Correct.
September, mid-September.
And we've been
October.
Anticipating this bill being passed this year.
Exactly.
After many, many years of back and forth.
That's correct. So to state that they will be done by June or July next year, I don't foresee that. But we never know.
So currently what happens? What happens to the Muslim community? What happens to the way we traditionally do things?
So
or can we still go ahead?
We still go ahead and carry on the way we do, because that's only a bill.
Right.
That's not legislation. It still needs to be adopted. So the president still needs to sign it off.
Yeah.
So we still carry on the way we do. We've submitted our objections. The Muslim community has done so. And it's now up to the Department of Home Affairs to take into consideration the objections and amend the bill accordingly, and even have further public engagements. So a simple solution to this, there is a political party, Al Jama'ah, if I may mention, that lobbied with the Department of Home Affairs to give them a type of lifeline whilst they are trying to fix up this problem, and that is to have the Muslim marriages registered. Just register it. So you have your nikah certificate from whichever imam, you have 2 affidavits, witnesses, and you go to Home Affairs, and they give you an unabridged marriage certificate. Right? So at least you have a marriage certificate.
Gotcha.
Right? Now, the basis of that is that you got married, you performed the nikah in terms of the tenets of Islam.
Right.
And then the dissolution of it would be in terms of the tenets of Islam as well. So that I think was a brilliant concept, because that's ideally what we want incorporated into legislation, into the marriage bill at least, so that our nikah is performed in terms of the tenets of Islam, and the dissolution of the marriage is also in terms of the tenets of Islam.
How does the public participate? I mean, is there a site that they go to? Is there a link that they go to? Where do we find this type of platform to comment?
So the comment, it's closed already, 31st of August and the 8th of September. It's done, it's completed, so we will have to wait for the next public participation, if any, if there's going to be an amended bill.
So who's fighting the fight for our Muslim community? Are they religious organizations, political parties? How does it work?
So I must say that our Muslim bodies was very vocal about it,
Okay.
like the Muslim Judicial Council.
Right.
I think Jamiatul Ulama South Africa,
Okay.
UXA, and some other bodies, prominent bodies, that was very vocal about it, and they actually submitted their objections. Even they had seminars and engagement with students in the community.
I see.
I know there was recently one held at IPSA here in Cape Town,
Okay.
headed by Sheikh Munir Abdurrauf, who was very instrumental in it as well.
Okay.
So yes, so there was quite a number of announcements during that period for people to come forward and inquire and and put in their objections. And yes, we have to just wait for the media so that we are informed if there's going to be another public participation for an amended bill. So we just have to wait for the media. But believe me, our Muslim community will definitely become aware of it.
Oh no, I hope so too. And watching Hilaal live, we'll try and also update our community around the marriages bill as well. It's very integral. Are there other countries that have incorporated the marriages bill or the Muslim marriage into the marriages bill?
Look, we're in a minority country,
right?
So there are other countries like Australia,
Okay.
in the West, that had incorporated some Muslim recognition.
Okay.
Right. But if we look at in our Arab countries, Arabian countries, Middle Eastern countries, some of the laws are for marriage is actually very strict.
Okay.
Even much more strict than what we proposing it to be. So yeah, there's a lot to consider. And taking into context our background as Muslims here in South Africa, the formation of Islam, how it came, and who contributed towards it, it's important for us to acknowledge that and within that context, develop this custom and law.
Absolutely. We make up a large footprint with regards to the economic spending power, buying power that we have in South Africa as well. And I think we should be considered, rightfully considered as well. So interesting times ahead. I really hope that it gets sorted out before elections. And that we can, finally put this to bed as well.
Yes, I think it's time, and I think it's important for our Muslim community to have certainty of what it's all about. Although we have, there are other groups as well in our Muslim community that opposes this bill in its totality, that we should not get involved with government, with legislation. We should keep it the way it is. But
majority obviously feels differently. Advocate, thanks so much for coming into studio. Really appreciate it. We look forward to next week's edition, inshallah. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
And that's how we round up our legal slot with Advocate Yusuf Khan Dalwai around the marriages bill, and more importantly, about how our Muslim community is affected about it. Do keep watching Hilaal Live. We'll bring you an update as it unfolds. That's all from the Cape Town team. Sohail Barnes and myself, Luqman Shadrack, now handing over to the Johannesburg team, Faraz Patel, and the amazing Hilaal team to take you through until about 7:30, inshallah. We'll be back tomorrow between 5 and 6:30, inshallah. Have a great evening. Assalamu alaikum.